Hey there. Chapter 25. Listen. Home. By the time Charlie gets home, it is raining hard, lightning flashing, thunder rolling closer, the trees leaning in the wind. Her hair is plastered to her scalp, sodden clothes cling to her skin, and her teeth are chattering. She is halfway up the ramp when the sliding door opens and Sarita tosses her a beach towel. "It's about time you got back, girl. Look at you, soaked to the skin. Get those muddy boots off before you come in," she says, but there is something in her voice that doesn't match the gruffness of her words. When Charlie has loosened her boots, pulled them off, stepped into the dining room, she sees that Sarita is beaming. This tall, thin woman Charlie has thought immovable as a wood carving seems lit from within. "What?" "Mr. Hayward called," Sarita says. "He has a friend who lives over by the high school who has a young female Malamute. That's a type of dog. He wants to breed someday." She came into the heat for the first time last week, and for days there have been dogs hanging around his yard. One of them is gold with a green collar. Charlie remembers her first imagining Coyote weaving through the trees toward the sound of barking dogs. They've been barking and howling all night, so the man's wife finally made him take the Malamute to a kennel this morning. Charlie puts her hand against her chest where her heart is thudding almost painfully. The high school's so far. Roads and cars. He could not have gotten there without roads and cars. "We have to go get him now." No telling where he is by now. Well, even if they found him, Charlie realizes she can't be sure he would come to get her, or he would come to her, can't be sure that she could get him in the car. "Yeah, you have to let him come home on his own, Sarita says. "He's a survivor," Charlie reminds herself. "If he got there, he can get back." Will he? Will he come home? What do you think? Charlie considers for a moment and then nods. The connection between them is real. She knows this. She makes an image of him in her mind, far from roads and cars, heading home. Be careful, she thinks. Now, go get into some dry clothes and then call Mr. Hayward and thank him. It is dusk when Charlie, going to the window for what feels like the millionth time, sees Coyote coming down the road from the direction of Mr. Garrison's. He is wet and muddy, tail down, ears tipped sideways against the rain that has kept up steadily all day. "Dad! Sarita!" She shrieks. "He's here! He's back!" She opens the sliding door and calls to him, "Coyote! Dinner! Come get your dinner!" He's limping slightly as he trots down the driveway, but otherwise, she thinks, he is himself. There's something jaunty in the way he moves, something cheerful and casual and ordinary, as if he had only been off on a ramble and is, of course, coming home for his dinner. Charlie hurries to the kitchen, puts all the pieces of liver she has into the bowl she has kept ready since she filled it with dry food the day he disappeared. When she carries it into the dining room, Coyote is standing on the ramp under the roof overhang. He shakes himself, splashing muddy water on the bricks, on the glass of the door. "You're gonna like this," she tells him as she puts the bowl down. He wags his sodden tail and looks up at her expectantly. He has been without food for 4 days, she thinks, and this food smells of liver. But he does not move towards it. "I can't eat, you know, until you back away from the bowl." "Don't you ever do that again," she says, and steps back into the house. Sarita is watching from the doorway to the kitchen. Paul Morgan has come into the dining room. He puts a hand on Charlie's shoulder, and they stand watching Coyote eat. No way to hold him to that, you know. When Coyote has finished his meal, has settled himself behind the boxwoods to sleep, Charlie goes downstairs. She opens the door to the studio and turns on the light. Her mother took her favorite cameras with her to the rainforest, of course. They were lost in the crash. But somewhere here, with her old equipment, there will be the digital camera she got and hardly used before she went away. Colleen Morgan hadn't wanted to work with a digital camera, hadn't wanted to let computers take over her world, but she didn't intend to be left behind either. "The world has changed," Charlie remembers her saying as she pulled the new camera from its box, took out the manual, the batteries, the memory card. "I'll keep doing things my way too, but I have to know what this new way has to offer." That is the camera Charlie intends to find. She will take pictures of Coyote tomorrow. She will make a disc of the pictures for school on Monday. When the other kids ask about the accident, about how she is now, how it feels to come back to school after so long away, she will have something else to talk about and something to show them. If a teacher asks her to write about her summer, she will create an illustrated report. She will call it Coyote Summer, and she will get an A. Charlie finds the camera in the second carton she opens. It has been packed away in its original box. Beneath this box, wrapped in bubble wrap, is one of her mother's old cameras. Maybe, she thinks, I will learn to use that one someday. She looks at the door to her mother's darkroom, the sign hanging crooked from its nail. Maybe I'll learn about darkrooms and the way you did the work you did. But for now, I'm going to make pictures this way. She notices the stack of books on the desk. All this time, she had been sleeping in the studio. She had not noticed or thought about these books. Something should be done with them, she thinks. Whatever her mother wanted her photographs to accomplish, these books are wasted sitting down here in the dark. She takes 2 copies, tucks them under her arm. One she will put on the coffee table in the living room where it belongs. Maybe her father has forgotten it. Maybe he will want to remember. The other she will give to Sarita. At the door, before she switches off the light, Charlie looks back at the studio and the framed photographs that are leaning up against the leg of the table. She isn't ready to put them up in her room, she thinks. But someday, she'll wake up in the morning in her own room with Coyote asleep on the floor next to her bed and see the fairy castle across the room. Someday, she'll imagine again the little figure with iridescent wings. That is the end of chapter 25.